you talk to anyone who's made a film, any teacher, anyone at all, and you say, "Why, I want to make a film. How should I start?" They'll always say, "If you want to make a film, make a film. Get on with it."
Each year, the Fresh Film Festival in Limerick showcases the work of young filmmakers from all over Ireland and awards prizes to the most inventive entries. The films include live action, animation, documentary, romance, and experimental pieces. For the next half hour, we'll be going through the process of making a film, from coming up with the story to the final cut. We'll also be talking to people who've had their films shown at the Fresh to see what advice they can give to other young Irish filmmakers.
It actually was the Fresh Film Festival that directly got us into it. This competition just came into our class one day. We decided, we'd better do something.
Keep it simple.
Don't shoot in the sea unless you're in the Bahamas with loads of money.
It's definitely a good idea to get a good mic for your camera. I wanted a young James Stewart, in the role, but I didn't get that. But
Films don't make themselves. You've got to make them.
So you want to make a film, but you don't have a clue where to start? Well, you've come to the right place. But first, if you want to be a filmmaker, you have to look like a filmmaker. Now that you've your outfit sorted, it's time to get your hands on a camera. It doesn't matter if it's state of the art or if it's been around longer than you. If your film's any good, no one will care what you shot it on. Having trouble coming up with an idea? Before you even put pen to paper, you should first consider what locations and props you'll have access to. Look around your house and see what you can use. You'd be surprised what you can achieve in a film with ordinary household objects if you use your imagination. The film that won the Fresh in 2003 was shot entirely in the filmmaker's kitchen, and its climactic scene revolves around a toaster, a frying pan, and a piece of cutlery.
A 17-year-old
Take a look at your back garden. See what other locations in your area might make your film stand out.
By more importantly, realizing that we are the children of God, and as such, we will live.
Jonathan Lambert wrote his film around the two locations that were available to him.
Yeah, my dad is a caretaker in a school, so that's where we shot the lane scenes, and a lot of it's just set in the house as well and out my shed. So yeah, I just took them into consideration when I wrote it.
If you can't get any ideas from your locations, try looking in the newspaper or listening to the radio. The daily news is full of interesting stories. You could also use historical events as the basis for your film. Maybe your local school could be an inspiration.
Without your leaving cert, you'll all end up as bin men.
Or just tell a story from real life.
Can't you see I'm depressed on my head, like? Look at me!
Well, I was actually jumped on myself about 3 or 4 months prior to making the film. There was about 9 of them, and they started digging me. We turned around and started digging them back around the ground, fighting. And before I knew it was like a scrum, they were all on top of me and kicking me in the head here, there, everywhere. Like, so I wrote this script about the boy whose world is unfair, like, to him.
You could also combine the real with the imaginary, like in this film where the story of Jesus is set in a secondary school.
Whoa. He who has not sinned may cast the first stone. Proceed.
I'd heard a song, it's actually an old folk song called Tom Dooley, and it's about a murder, so it just kind of had these images in my head.
Whatever idea you decide on, try to pick something simple for your first film. That way you can spend your time on the shots and the story instead of running to different locations hoping people will show up.
Everything we had problems with making our first murder film, we decided that we'd try and counteract that and come up with something that was deadly simple, so we had one actor. Because we picked, first of all, we also picked areas that we knew pretty well.
See, it's easier to write if you have a film with just one fella in a lot of the scenes, like, because it's my brother, like, we could do the scenes whenever we wanted to, like, at our own pace, but it was just the main problem is when you have a scene where there's about 6 people in there or something, they're kind of difficult to try and get all the people there at the same time, you know.
Padraig Whitmore's film Bloody Chancers made use of all the resources of his town and involved the whole community in the production. However, the shoot was not without its problems.
It was a nightmare when it came to locations. I think we were shooting at nearly 2 locations every day, which is an annoyance in itself, to get everybody to the locations and tell everybody where they are.
If your film does need a particular location you don't have immediate access to, don't be afraid to try and get it. It might be easier than you think.
Most people, they aren't looking for money or anything. They're not even looking for advertising. You just tell them, you know, we're doing a film. Are you interested in like letting us use the location? We can totally work around your schedule.
I just went up to the guy who manages the grounds there. I said, "Do you mind if we shoot a film here for the weekend?" And he just threw the keys at me. Said, "Fire away," you know, which is a surprise. We could have done anything. We could have had parties, but we shot a film.
I think if you set your ambitions way too high, you might end up kind of, you know, not exactly getting there.
So make a few small, simple films first before you attempt that biblical epic.
Your shoot's not going to go perfectly, and if you haven't prepared properly, it could destroy the shoot.
It might be useful to do a breakdown sheet of all your scenes, noting where it's set, who you'll need, and what props or costumes you'll need for each scene. If there are scenes indoors and outdoors in your film, it's advisable to shoot the outdoor scenes first. That way, if it rains on a certain day, you can move your shoot indoors.
We had call sheets that were drawn up, you know, with what we were going to do every day, and we did follow that schedule to the last. Now, there's times we had to rush through the schedule to actually hit the pieces all along, but we had every piece that we were going to shoot planned out, and I believe that, you know, that saved us in other areas where we may have been a little more unprepared.
If money is a problem, try raising some cash like Helena Doyle did.
We went about organising fundraiser gigs in Carlow, so we had 2 of those, and we used to get a lot of publicity in the newspapers, like.
Depending on the story you are telling, your film may require different levels of preparation.
We rehearsed the first, so we rehearsed in the kitchen, and it was just Glenn and Wade. With Wade, he's very good at it. He used to do kickboxing and stuff, so he's good into making up moves. Like a lot of my old action films as well, he'd come up with the moves for them. So we worked it out in a logical way, you know what I mean. And then I just drew the storyboards to that.
What you say about me, man?
Rehearsing it and storyboarding it really helped, because fight scenes are really hard to shoot.
While it's a good idea to plan your shoot carefully, you should also be open to new ideas that may happen on the day.
He's supposed to, in a different shot, he's supposed to go back and get the hammer, but he just went ahead and did it, and we just still shot it. And it looks kind of like handheld, because I'm kind of going around, it's real shaky, you know what I mean, but it still has good effect, so I kept that in there. And I just raised the camera up to him and he slams it down.
It's a whole new experience getting on the set and actually doing it, and a lot of things changed, even with the script and the lines, because you're under more pressure when the camera's sitting there looking at you. I know I am.
Keep your crew as small as possible as well, as minimal as possible.
All you really need is yourself and a camera.
Bring the manual to your camera. You know, it's a simple thing. I wasn't within walking distance of my house. What if the camera had a problem?
The atmosphere and mood a film creates depends a lot on the camera work.
Well, in the opening scene with the main character and the devil, I thought it'd be very good to kind of give it sort of an eerie sort of look. So I kind of used what they use is a Dutch angle, just simply having the camera at a slight kind of angle, just kind of give it a bit of eeriness. I got the cameraman to put the camera on the tripod, then extend the legs fully, and then have him hold from the bottom of the legs. And that way, when I stand up from the chair and I'm walking out with the gun in my hand, I thought it was kind of a good sort of eerie shot, because the camera's quite high up.
I just wanted to have a bit still and quiet for a lot of the beginning of the film, because the boy is obviously real quiet, and when the badness starts coming into his life, it's more handheld and cutting.
This film was lit by using 2 normal household lamps. To keep the scene scary, it needed to be kept quite dark. Also, the camera angles helped create the suspense by slowly revealing more of the stairs and keeping us guessing where the killer will emerge from.
For lighting, I used yard lights. I used them, and I just point them at the ceiling, or else put a cover of sheet paper over them or something, just to try and control the light.
Try watching your favourite films again, paying close attention to the camera work. See if there's any interesting shots you can try yourself. Some professionals may tell you that you should use a tripod if you don't want your film to look amateur, but this isn't necessarily true. With a handheld camera, you'll be able to create more energetic and inventive camera work, and work through your shot list faster. However, handheld doesn't mean you have to shake the camera around like an idiot. Practice holding it as steady as possible.
Action!
You can use the tripod legs to do small crane shots. If your camera has a flip-out screen, it will make the shot easier to frame. Otherwise, you'll just have to guess what it looks like and keep doing it until you get it right.
Anything we're moving and you want to shoot it really low without the camera shaking with it being handheld. So we basically thought, what happens if you flip the tripod upside down with the camera on the bottom? However, the problem you're presented with is framing, so we have to flip the viewfinder upside down and shoot it sort of like this. So the camera's very smooth. Problem, which unless you have a good editing system you can't really get around, is that the image is entirely upside down. But with a simple effect called mirror, which is in every iMovie package on every Apple, you just flip the image.
By resting the tripod on your legs, you can keep your character in the center of the screen. If your character is drunk, this effect can be very useful. Getting a smooth tracking shot can add a lot to your film. This shot was done by getting the cameraman to sit on a wheelie chair from an office as he was pulled backwards. This shot was filmed from the back of a car boot. Sitting the cameraman in a wheelchair or shopping trolley can also give a similar effect. By moving the camera back and zooming in at the same time, you can create this effect.
Okay boys, now we're on to our stabbing scene, and I'm gonna level with you just a little. Nothing too aggressive, just to, you know? Twice. 3 times. You're gonna have to get a little bit cut up here.
Hang on a second. Just because you're shooting a stabbing scene doesn't mean you actually have to stab your actors.
Okay.
The main effects is with the knife stuck into and stuff. We cut a knife in half and we sellotaped the bottom of the knife to a piece of cardboard, just around circular one. And then we stuck it underneath his jumper, slit a hole in the jumper and stand up. And it's really effective because people always say like, oh, how would you do that, you know?
Just because you can't do something in reality doesn't mean you can't fake it for the camera. A dangerous stunt like falling down the stairs can be done safely by just using close-up camera shots and fast cutting.
It was mostly just sound effects that does the job, like, and plus where's the camera's placed, like if you place the camera behind the guy who's punching or who's being punched. A lot of stuff we did as well was cutting away, which was also really effective, like the camera goes over and it gets the man and it slams up, like that's basically he just lay down when the camera went away and just cut off. The scar on the face, that was like this waxy fake skin we got in the joke shop, and we'd have to heat it up underneath lights so it'd be like roasting hot.
Is that hot?
No. I'm not even joking, man.
And some days we'd be coming back with blood all over our necks and all and everything, like he did blood in his head and people just looking at him like this. But we saw a few of our friends were like, what happened to your face and all?
Hello and welcome to the 2-minute recipe for making blood and brains. Here's what you'll need to get started. First, some golden syrup, some red food coloring, some breadcrumbs, a tin of blackcurrant jam, and 1 willing victim. The first thing you need to do is pour the golden syrup into a bowl. Put it in the microwave for 1 minute. Next, tear up 2 slices of bread into fine little pieces. Check that the golden syrup has gone quite liquidy. If not, give it a little longer in the microwave. Now it's time to add in the red food colouring. This mixture can be used for fake blood if you want it to stick. Add in some water. Next, pour in the breadcrumbs. And stir it all together. Open the tin of blackcurrant jam and add in 2 spoonfuls. Mash that up. Now get back your victim and apply the brains, using as much or as little as you need. If you need to spray blood from an open wound, all you need is a shampoo bottle, some food colouring and water for fake blood, and a length of tube. Insert the tube into the shampoo bottle. Then just hide the tube out of shot, fixing it in place with some tape, and have someone standing by ready to spray. These are just a few simple tricks that you can pull off. Experiment yourself and see what else you can come up with.
The scrumptious some fava beans in a nice Chianti.
What I'm trying to tell you is, when you're working with me, you're working for me, I'm trusting you, you're trusting me, aren't you? Huh? You're trusting me? You're trusting me? Well, guess... Oh, look, this is a banana. Now act! Act! Lack of motivation, is it? Here's your motivation! Actors.
Getting good performances from your actors can really make a difference.
You'll all be working as bin men.
They could have a talk with every single one of them before we went down and shot, like, and I just, you know, I try and keep it simple, like what I'm telling them, because they're not actors, they're only like, friends, you know, so like that or something, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. What? I just keep saying ma 3 times or saying
ma.
Don't think you know the performance you want, because the actor's going to come and they're going to take a different approach to it, and they could bring something that you never would have thought of, which gives a whole new level. So don't go around thinking you know exactly what you want.
You're always acting a big hard man, but you're scared.
No, I'm not. There's just nothing here, and I'm not scared by
You
this.
are
No, I'm not. There's nothing here. God's sake.
Would you ever stop pushing me? There has to be! No, would you ever stop pushing me?
the opening sequence in it, the start of it, when the boy cries, I would go into a room on my own for an hour or two, and I would listen to Eric Clapton's Tears in Heaven just to get me in the mood on repeat. So I'd be playing over and around 20 times, and it just get me, because I find that an emotional song, so that would just get me teared up, you know.
One method of getting a better performance from someone may be to let them make up their own dialogue, once the purpose of the scene has been worked out. Just be careful they don't get carried away.
You're all in this fucking mess because of that phone call. Now just step up and tell the man, I the but that over there, he wouldn't let me say a thing.
Probably not a good idea to rely on other people so much. I mean, because they will surprise it, you know.
At one stage we had one cast member that hadn't actually shown up to film, and that was something new that we had to quickly rewrite and alter the script minorly to suit that, but we're able to do that in a few minutes.
It's important that your key actors are committed to your project. Letting them collaborate on the story or characters is one way of keeping them more interested and involved.
I think they need a bit of persuading.
I think the key is once people are energetic about the filmmaking, you know, a problem, but if people are there and they want to go home, they want to get paid, that kind of stuff, then it gets messy.
If you don't want the hassle of working with actors, maybe you should try your hand at some animation. Clay puppets will never complain about long working hours and not being fed properly. You should always keep sound in mind when choosing your locations. Loud noises like traffic could ruin a scene involving dialogue.
Come on, partner.
If you have a boom mic, make sure you get it in as close to the actor as you can, keeping it just out of shot.
The sound was recorded on the boom, but unfortunately it didn't come out so well, I suppose, in the end. The boom was never edged properly, if you understand what I'm saying. The sound wasn't great in places because the boom was just too far away.
That's really carefully. from Castlebride. I go home and have my mother.
However, if you can't afford a boom mic, move the camera in closer, especially if it's a dialogue scene. Even if you have an interesting story, bad sound will make it very difficult for people to watch and enjoy it.
Because we had such problems with our previous first attempt to make something with sound, we decided no sound, we just won't even bother. And so actually, as a result of that, the music became so important.
Because it's a silent film, it presents new challenges as there's no dialogue, and we wanted to keep it quite universal, despite the fact that the titles are in French. So it's also the facial expressions and grunts and stuff.
As well as getting good sound on the day, adding extra sound effects in the editing can be very effective.
We're even now, Broderick. That's for all those darn years of hardship, you dirty old critter.
Just good sound is important to any film. You'd be like, it's amazing how important sound actually is until you don't have certain little pieces.
We'll either do this my way or my way.
Now it's time to edit your film. Ideally, you should try and cut your film on a computer, but if you can't get access to one, you can still cut your film from camera to VCR. It's not as easy, but several films have won the fresh using this technique. It helps if your VCR is a flying arrays head. This will allow you to make smooth cuts.
If you got a fancy star wipe or something like that, it's a bit like putting a sax solo in the middle of a song. So it's a great idea if you're doing it for a good reason. It's a stupid idea if you're doing it just to lift up a thing that, just to lift up a boring idea.
One person playing more than one person is great fun to try playing with. And with digital it works quite well, especially if you have access to a computer. I mean, it's all about having a computer that you can edit and tweak your footage with.
You a filmmaker yourself?
We had to basically set it up on a tripod and get him to say his lines on both sides, and then in Final Cut Pro, cut the middle and stick both bits in.
If you don't have a fancy computer, you can still have one person play two characters by using a whip pan and joining them together in the editing.
You need to keep it down to just what's needed, just the dialogue, the core elements of the film. If you dwell too long on a shot, the audience will start getting tired and bored, and if the film's longer than it needs to be, it won't be shown in the festival.
We found a lovely trick, which is you can fade to black for a few seconds. That kind of saves you when you don't have anything to fill in the middle. Just as a little savior. Just don't do it now. Don't do it.
Don't give up if your first film doesn't turn out quite the way you expected. The more you practice, the better you'll get.
Talk to people who just don't like you and don't have any respect for you. They'll give you the brutal, honest truth about your film, and they'll encourage you to cut that bit, get it looking good.
And maybe not ask your best friends to do it, because you're going to fight with people over it, so...
If something is difficult, but it's not impossible, do it.
Yeah, I think the best thing to do is simply just to go out and make the film. You can spend a lot of time being very worried and concerned about how it's going to turn out, but the best thing to do is just go out there and make mistakes.
Every time you shoot a film, it's a learning experience. You will learn something new. You will figure, well, we done this that time, it didn't work, it was a pain. Let's try fix it the next time. And I suppose keep that in mind, and you're not going to go too far wrong.
He does this! He's taking him here. He's moving, he's back on. You come on, I want to see you in its face. I want to see you in its face. I want to see you give it gur, I want to see you give it raw. I want you to move back.